You're listening to Bookin' Around Town with Jacques on the Audio Flow.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Bookin' Around Town. I am your host Jacques, and as always, I'm happy to be here with you guys. Today is a really special episode for me because I'm having an opportunity to chat with two ladies that I started following probably in 2015. I was late to the party and kind of got hooked into both of their works through audio, and ever since then, I make sure that I download every book that they put together or that they collaborate on together, as well as their individual works. And it's just something about the way that they write, both individually as well as together when they co-author. I just love it. I love it, and I'm sure that you all love their work just as much as I do. And so I'm not going to prolong this introduction. Please welcome to this week's episode New York Times and Bestselling authors Vi Keeland and Penelope Ward. Good morning, Vi and Penelope. How are you ladies doing today?
Great. Thank you for having us.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm excited to have you guys on Bookin' Around Town, and I believe Vi did tell me a little secret that this is the first time you guys have interviewed together. So how does that feel that you guys, are having this chat with me all by myself with both of you?
It's exciting, actually. I'm really excited about it. We chat all day on Messenger, but we actually very infrequently hear each other's voices even so this is kind of nice.
I bet you this is going to be the longest talk that Penelope and I have ever had.
Yeah, it could
really?
be.
That's really, you know what, that's funny because you guys have this beautiful presence together on Facebook, and I will just say in the beginning, I love the camaraderie that you guys have together. I love the collaboration. I love the support. And I'm not going to lie, I thought y'all was the same person. So
you're not the only one. And, finally that rumor has been debunked since Vi showed a picture.
Yes, because Penelope had that Vi doll. And I always was like, well, maybe that's just like, her muse or her imaginary friend or something. And she just wants to write under two names. I don't know. So
no, but that doll did look like her, though, didn't it? Like when people finally saw her picture, they said, "That's Bibi."
Oh my gosh, I love it. But well, what I want to do first is say welcome to fall, because I am in Indiana and it is a little under 50, probably 49 degrees today. So what's the weather like where you are? I know, Penelope, you're in Rhode Island-ish, and Vi, you're up in New York, right?
Yeah, and it's really crappy out here today. It's raining. I think it's raining up most of the East Coast here.
Yep, same in Rhode Island. It looks like the sun is like trying to peek through now, but we're starting to get a little bit of a hint of fall here in Rhode Island, but it's still pretty warm. It's still like low 80s today here.
Low 80s.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. Our high today is, I think, 62, and we're almost there.
Oh wow.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. I've got.
Yeah. I love fall.
Do you?
I love it. It's my favorite season. I love everything about fall. I don't like the pumpkin spice flavoring.
Come on.
Everybody, but I do. I love the leaves, and I love wearing boots, and I love warmer clothing. It's just my season.
Vi, are you team pumpkin spice?
I do not like pumpkin spice either. Gosh. My husband is a fanatic, but I do not like it at all. I don't like it, especially in coffee. I don't like any flavored coffee. I like my coffee straight up coffee.
No, see, you guys, I thought we were going to be friends here. You broken the cardinal rule. You always agree with the host, and the host says she likes pumpkin spice, so you guys are supposed to. Yeah, pumpkin spice is rocks. It's the best. So
it has a very distinct flavor. Yeah,
it's really good in Starbucks. I don't usually. Well, no, the cookies are good. The pumpkin spiced cream pies. Yeah, I'm team pumpkin spice. So, oh well, okay. All right. Well, first of all, ladies, I have not heard this story, and I'm pretty sure that you've kind of shared somewhere, and I'm probably late to the party, but I would love to know how you both kind of found your way into writing? Because technically, neither of your backgrounds, well, with the exception Penelope, you were, in television on the
Hmm.
news,
Right.
didn't really have a writing background per se, I don't think. So I would
Not at
love to
all.
know how you both kind of fell into writing, if that was something that in the back of your head you always wanted to do, and then you just kind of took that plunge. So whoever wants to start first, I'm fine with that.
Vi, why don't you start?
Okay, sure. Um, let's see. I've been writing for, I guess, about 5 years now, and I like to say that I've always written. It's just a very different audience now since
Mm-hmm.
I was an attorney prior to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of something I was always interested in. I'm a huge reader. I have been since I'm a little kid. It's something I've always wanted to do. And maybe a year before I actually published something, I sat down and wrote a book, actually in a notebook, not on a laptop, which is really funny now that I think about it. And I wrote it for me. I had started it, and it's something I just kind of wanted to do. And I, I don't know. I wrote the whole thing. I read it back to myself. I liked it. I never thought anybody would read it. And then I my house was wiped out during Sandy. I live on Long Island, and I just kind of decided to just publish it. I think that storm really changed a lot of things for me, and I just decided to try to publish it. So I looked up how to self-publish, and one day I just randomly hit publish. I didn't have a Facebook account. I didn't have anything. I just pressed publish, and I cried when somebody actually bought my book and wrote a review. I never thought anybody was going to read it. It was kind of a bucket list thing for me, and then it just kind of evolved.
And what
Yeah.
book was that?
It's called First Thing I See. It's, if you look online, it has the original $25 cover that I had bought pre-made. It has a wine bottle on the cover, and it's the most hideous thing. And I do not change the cover because it's really ugly, and I don't want people to go and be attracted to my first book, so I
Oh my
leave the
gosh.
ugly cover.
It's like the ugly sweater contest. It's the ugly cover contest.
I don't want to call any more attention to it.
Well, everybody knows what it is now, Vi. Everybody's going to go to Amazon everybody go to Amazon and buy the book. No.
Oh God, no.
And bring it to the book signing in New York.
Yeah, I'm definitely not bringing that one. I can tell you that much.
It's not on the pre-order form, everybody, so don't go looking for it. But I like that that you mentioned that there was this storm, and it kind of changed a lot of things for you, and you went and you took that jump and that leap, and you wrote that book. And some people, they write their initial book and they go back and they do make changes to it, and they do update the covers and all of that. Is there a particular reason why you wanted to just keep the cover the way it is, even though you kind of say it's not that great? Is it more symbolic leaving it like it is?
Maybe, I don't know. I can't bring myself to go back to it because now, of course, 16, 17 almost books later,
Mm-hmm.
I can't even bring myself to go back and read it. I just want to leave it as is.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so now really I'm going to go read it. So thanks for sharing that information. And, it's interesting. A lot of people don't really go back to their first works, but, I like to see how people evolved in their writing style and things like that. So, yeah, just know that I'm bringing that book with me to New York. So you'll see it face to face.
It's very difficult after, if you feel like you've evolved. I had a proofreader. I didn't have an editor at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what I was doing structurally with the book. I'm not even going to tell you all the negative things I did with it, but now if I go back, it's very painful to read it after I've worked with an editor and learned things. So I can't go back. I'm just going forward.
That's okay. I'll go back for you. It's no problem.
Thank you very much.
Penelope, what about your journey?
Yeah. Well, it's not that, aside from there, being a flood and everything, and, hurricane and in Vi's situation, mine's very similar in that, you can take a negative situation and turn it into something positive. So around the time that I started writing, my mother had been going through breast cancer. My grandmother had passed away. And I needed something to basically distract myself from all those things going on. So I started reading. I became an avid reader in the new adult and contemporary romance genre around 2012, 2011. And then, I just decided to start my own story. I wanted to write the kind of story that I liked to read. And that was how I started writing Gemini. And I would read it chapter by chapter to my friend on Skype, actually. And she would look forward to the next chapter. So it was sort of like the serial for her. And that's how it all started. And then when I was done, I had basically a full-length novel, and I looked up information on how to self-publish. I was never someone who thought about dabbling in fiction before. So it was literally my first attempt at writing fiction. I'd always liked to write like poems for friends that rhymed and stuff, but never really wrote a full-length story. So my story is very similar to Vi's in that one day I just basically figured out how to hit publish. And then all of a sudden I realized that somebody had created a Goodreads page for this book, and I didn't have any social media at the time either. And we were probably going through these things at the same time. We obviously didn't know each other, but these same figure it out yourself steps. And, like Vi, my first cover was very different from all of the rest in that, it was just a stock photo. I didn't change anything about it. I just slapped the title on it. And I still I refuse to change it, mainly just because it's sort of like, for me, it's like historical. That's my first book that my first book cover, and changing it now would sort of be just counterproductive, as well as the interior, because I would want to rewrite the whole thing because I have evolved. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, I get it. But for me, again, because I kind of fell into both of you guys' work around the same time, and I think it was, this is 2017, right? Gosh, we're almost in 2020, by the way, which is just weird.
I know.
So yeah, I can remember I found Vi first on Audible because I had just started listening to audiobooks, and I fell in love with Throb and Beat. And then it kind of says, it gives you a suggestion, and then it suggested Penelope's books, and then I found Sins of Seven, which is how I found your work. And so I would love to know, first of all, you guys both started writing at the big explosion of indie publishing. And so you were kind of in the grassroots portion of it. How have you seen it change over the last 5 to 6 years since you guys started, including with social media and marketing and the fact that pretty much everybody's writing a book now? What are some other things that you've seen change since you started?
What you just said captured most of the volume. The volume has just so changed significantly. Everybody's an author. And back when we started, 2013, we both published for the first time in 2013. We were a little bit late to the game. I think maybe 2012, a year earlier, was when some of the real books that really exploded came around.
Right.
But the social media, you used to be able to get traction off of social media. Facebook actually showed your posts back then. So I can't even imagine starting out today. There was no Kindle Unlimited there, which is very, as an author that isn't Kindle Unlimited, which is very difficult to compete with. I don't even know how I would start again today. It's just seems like it's so much more difficult.
So for example, my book Gemini, I attribute the fact that I was essentially found to the fact that I was able to offer that book for free for 5 days. At that time, there weren't that many books that were being offered for free. So when you took a new book that, that had some potential because, it was one of those edgier romances that everybody wanted, after 50 Shades and so forth, they essentially, they stood out if you offered them for free. But today, you couldn't do that. Today, there are so many books being touted as free or actually free that it would be very difficult to be found.
Yeah. And Facebook, social media is inundated with so many authors, and now they don't show your post, and everything costs so much more, and it would be really difficult to start out today.
And
I agree. I mean, not that I'm getting ready to start out or anything, but it's just pretty much 98% of my friends on Facebook are writers
Yeah.
or somebody in
Yep.
that industry, and it's like I don't have any other friends. It's just
Yeah.
it's just odd. And then again, mentioning about the advertising space and Facebook, blocking things that you see. So it can be discouraging for some of those newer persons that are coming out. But I guess then that's when you really get creative and try to figure out what to do outside of standing outside like the Liberty guy who does the taxes and spinning your book around on the corner.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't think it's
you're absolutely
impossible. It's
right.
just hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. It really is. I mean, it was always difficult, but you know, it's I've seen such good authors and such good books that just don't make it.
Yeah.
There's no visibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's the reason why I have this podcast. I like to not only speak with authors who kind of have a fan base, but also authors who are fairly new or maybe not getting as much exposure so that they can be introduced out there to other people who listen to the show and things like that. So I think that's important. But what I really want to know is how did you guys find each other since you started somewhere around the same time. We didn't even know. I mean, Vi didn't really have a face for a long time. I mean, so how did you guys kind of
Yeah.
network or come and create this collaboration in this friendship?
Yeah, well, it started really as a friendship for a long time before it ever became a writing collaboration. We were each, writers in our own right, and we came together as part of a group that put our books into a box set. And after the whole box set release was over, because it was just a temporary thing, I had put my first book, Gemini, in, and Vi had put one of her books. Basically, we stayed in touch and messaged each other every day. And one day I sent her a fake cover and it said Cocky Bastard on it. And I just like, it was just a mock that I had made off of some picture. It wasn't meant to be used or anything. And I said, what do you think about this? What would this story be about? We just started going back and forth, kind of joking. And then at one point I was like, hey, would you want to actually write this book? And so we didn't tell anybody we were writing together because we weren't sure if it was going to work out. So once we were somewhat into this story, we decided that it was something that we enjoyed doing. And neither one of us felt like we had to co-write. We each had, books that had done well, and we felt like we just wanted to. It was something that was a different kind of an experience for us. So it took off from there. Pretty much, I think the book was almost done by the time we told people we were going to be releasing a book together. So that's kind of how it started. But we were really good friends first, just talking all day, every day.
We still finish each other's sentences. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I can't even tell you how often we'll be chatting. We literally chat from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. And I can't even tell you how often we'll be chatting and we'll both be typing, and then we'll look up and we will randomly have typed the same exact thing. It's like we share a brain.
We joke about that all the time, but that's part of why we're able to write together.
Yeah, and that's again goes back to us thinking that you guys are just one person. Honestly, everybody, I'm talking to two different people.
Right. Finally, we can.
I know, but what? The funny part is about your collaborations that you guys write together is I really have a hard time trying to figure out who wrote what. And sometimes when you read collaborations, especially when you are familiar with both persons' separate works, you can kind of tell or pick up a little bit. But I really can't. And so I think that's a tribute to how good you guys work together is that I can't tell the difference. Like if it just had one name on it, Penelope Ward by Keeland all run together, I just think that was just one person writing the book. So I love the whole Cocky Bastard series. I do have a favorite, but I would love to know so far before we get to your latest release, what's been your favorite co-write together?
Bye.
Oh gosh. Well, to write it definitely was Cocky Bastard. We probably, I guess because it was a new experience for us, we just had a blast writing it. It is so much easier for me to write with her than without her. Yeah. So I was actually in awe how easy it went, how simple the transition was, passing the manuscript back and forth to each other. And we just laughed the entire time that we wrote that book. So Cocky Bastard is always going to be my favorite in my heart. Even if, at other times there are stories like our upcoming book that comes out in a couple of weeks. That one might be that's my favorite book from both of us written together. And it's my favorite hero, but my favorite experience was Cocky Bastard.
Yeah. And I think I feel the same way. I mean, Cocky Bastard you can't like replicate how it felt to write that first book, and just everything was so fresh in terms of the process. Yeah. And I think, part of why it actually works so well is that we really do give each other a lot of freedom. I never, take what she wrote and say, well, I might have done it a little bit differently myself. Mm-hmm. And if that were the case, I just say, I learned to appreciate what she wrote and then incorporate whatever ideas I had into my part. So you have to sort of let go of any control freak tendencies that you might have, because, and just appreciate what the person brings to the table. And a lot of times it's better than what you would have thought up yourself. Mm-hmm. So we really don't change anything that each other wrote unless it's like a major thing or a mistake. We just we go with it and we improvise. And that's part of why it works too, because you have to be like that to co-write with somebody. You can't be a control freak and try to go back constantly and discuss things constantly and change things constantly, because you'll never get it done.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think any one of us have ever gone back and edited each other's work. We don't. And there'll always be times where I guess, maybe you would have done things differently. And the funny thing is, she's right. We both completely give up all the control, and on our own, we're complete control freaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that would be me. I'm a total control freak. It's so hard to give up any control. Even I have an assistant, and still I'm like, no, let me do it. And she's like, but I'm your assistant, but no, let me do it this way. And it's just difficult. But again, I guess it comes back to that relationship and that friendship that you guys developed before you started collaborating together, and that trust thing. You trust each other's creative talent and skills, and so that it's going to be successful. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, but I agree. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. She sometimes will throw things at me on purpose too, like that she knows will freak me out. And I leave it too, but she knows. And I picture her laughing while she's writing the scene, because she knows it's going to torture me.
Do you do that on purpose, Penelope?
Well, sometimes I think sometimes actually it might be a little inadvertent, and then it freaks her out anyway. But I will say that I love to end on cliffhangers within the little chapters. Mm-hmm. So I get great enjoyment out of leaving her in a spot or a pickle that she has to figure herself out. And then she'll say, I want to know what happens next. And I'll say, well, that's for you to figure out.
I remember she left me off with Playboy Pilot. She leaves me off, and sometimes we do have ideas that we share going forward on how we saw the future of the story going. And maybe I'll say, I was thinking maybe how this happened in this chapter might work here and here. But she gave me Playboy Pilot back once, and the Carter, the hero, his uniform had been stolen. He was an airline pilot, and his uniform was stolen. And I messaged her as soon as I read it, and I was like, what happened to his uniform? And she was like, I don't know. That's for you to figure out.
That's for you to figure out.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. And speaking of Carter and Playboy Pilot, that is my favorite collaboration, as I am looking at his beautiful face right now in front of me. But I love all of the stories. I like that they kind of have this similar theme where you think the person is really this cocky bastard, like you have to think, but then there's something deeper going on with the character, and you get to that, about 2/3 of the way through the book, and then you're just fall in love with that character even more than you did when you thought he was just I don't like to use the word douchebag or douche or dick or anything like that, because I just don't. But anyway, because he was this bastard, maybe we should use that word, since that's the thing. But I love that story, and I will tell you guys. So I am kind of on my backlist. So I started Mr. Moneybags 2 days ago. Now, I want to know, how do you guys pick the covers? Because in case you guys didn't know, in your groups, I always show you, oh, this book cover made my phone. It made my phone
Yeah.
wallpaper.
Yep.
And it just sits there for a long period. It's like Drunk Dial right now is still up there. But I love them. I love that. And don't get me wrong, I like abs. I like, but the covers are so sexy without showing too much. So what's your process when you guys are deciding on selecting the cover for those books?
Well, and I don't want to speak for Vi, so I'll let her answer as well. But for me, it's just about, I mean, it's obviously a matter of personal taste, right? So not everybody's going to find the same cover attractive, but if a photo just strikes me as being who I see as the inspiration for the story in my head, then that's the right photo to just pursue. Because basically, I think that you're never going to find everyone loving the same cover, but I think that you can kind of have an idea if your cover is going to be universally liked as opposed to majority unliked. So, I think that it's a matter of personal taste and also who you see as your character. I think that's the number one thing, because there've been plenty of times that there have been photos I might have wanted to use, but it just doesn't fit my character.
Yep. We're just really good stalkers.
Yeah, I mean, you have to sort of, you have to have a certain, I guess, a level of taste or the ability to anticipate what people might like, because you really don't know. I mean, we don't put our covers out there and say, do you like this? You have to guess what you think will appeal to people, and that's very, very challenging since everyone does have different opinions.
Yeah, and I would just say Mr. Moneybags is my favorite. Because okay, so he is showing the abs, but it's something about the characters are not like 20. Does that make sense? Like, he's not 20. I'm not 20. Yep. So I don't want to necessarily be oogling over, some 21-year-old or 25 for that matter. I'm more up toward the 40s, I don't know how old he is, this guy on this picture, but I just want to print this off and hang this on my my wall of candy. And but yeah, he's okay. Enough about that. That picture is my favorite.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in that picture. It's the swagger of his pose. It's sort of like his expression, and it's the facial hair. There's a lot going on that works for me.
That picture is everything. I don't really care what you do.
He really did. I saw him as Dex.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I need to stalk him too, because you guys did really good with that. But anyway, I digress because I'm staring at Mr. Moneybags right here as it's sitting on my computer. But
I'm staring at the cover of Room Hate because that's what comes up on
Penelope
cover, and that is Drunk Dial and Room Hate are my favorite covers of hers, and my goodness, this picture on Room Hate just totally works for me.
Vi is a sucker for a good expression, eyes and a good expression.
And I love that there's a lot of thought that goes into book covers, and I'm a cover snob. I just am. I'm a cover snob, and so again, the cover is the first thing that I look at, but of course I have authors that are one click. I don't care if you just put your name up there and it's just a black cover, I'm gonna buy it. But the cover art on it also helps.
And there are some authors whose personal taste does not fall in line with the male on the cover. My own personal taste is that I do love using males, because I feel like the male characters in my books in many times inspire my writing, and are, the heroes are a huge part of the story. And so I love using the inspiration for the male hero on my covers, but not everyone thinks that makes the best cover. Some people would prefer not to use people. So everybody has their own taste about what they like. I just happen to like the cover with the male, and that tends to be what people find to be the more popular covers.
Yeah, but
I've also learned that I have a thing for Brazilian men. I've learned that. I'm married to a large Norwegian man that looks not 1 ounce of Brazilian. All of my guys, I don't know. I find that I wind up bringing myself close to these men that are Brazilian. I don't know. Boss Man is Brazilian. I'm trying to think of who else.
Almost everyone. Basically, she'll show me a picture and I'll be like, he's from Brazil, right? Well, I should have known.
You know what? It's so you have to have your fantasy too. Your fantasy goes into your covers. And so like, yeah, I'm looking at them all now and they all have a commonality. They have dark hair and they kind of got the little scruff going on, which again, for both of you guys, with the exception of Dear Bridget, I think he's got blonde hair.
Yep, that's our first.
Yeah, he's totally different than what we've seen on the other covers. But I have to agree, Vi, I'm all and Penelope, I'm all about, this is why I like your covers, because they're all dark haired and they have that scruff. And it doesn't matter what book I read or listen to, you can say the guy has red hair and no scruff and he's got blue eyes. He's always going to have dark hair and scruff with brown eyes. It doesn't matter. But in my head, that's how he looks. And Boss Man, I was just talking to my mom about this book and about the bulge.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, there was a teaser that got banned from Facebook because the guy was, he had a little too much going on for Facebook. However, Vi decided that she wanted the violets to appreciate it. So we got the unedited version. Well, on the book cover, the title covers everything up. So I still have it because it stayed on my phone for, I think, 2 months. And it just had to swipe right in the right space. So every time I unlocked my phone, I was at one with the Boss Man. So
yeah, funny. I actually got to meet the guy that's on the cover, and he's nothing like that pose. He is one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. And this pose, he just looks so, I don't know. I'm staring at it while I'm talking to you right now.
Intimidating.
So different, so intimidating, and he is the most welcoming, friendly, happy-go-lucky guy, and this pose is so different.
That's why it works, though. He totally embraced that character, and that book was so funny. And by the way, I will tell you guys that Joe Arden and Maxine Mitchell both wanted to send you guys hellos and shout out. They're going to be on my show in October. And
they're awesome.
I love them, and they are
Graham and Soraya.
Yes,
they were so great.
Yeah, I like them in pretty much everything, and they both are a part of my Aurally Screwed collection. So I'll have to send you guys something since they've both narrated a couple of your books. So let's talk a little bit about you guys' upcoming book, Dear Bridget, I Love You, and that's
Dear Bridget, I Want You.
Dear Bridget, I Want You. I'm
yes,
getting
exactly.
ready to say I love you. Gosh, they didn't get to the love you part until the end of the book, right?
The slow burn, a very slow burn.
Oh, really? Thank you for letting me know that. So I know that I will need to have lots of patience, because I've learned that I used to not like those slow burn books. I'm like, well, can they have sex before chapter 12? Or 14, because in most of the books now I read, it doesn't happen until between chapters 12 and 16. And so I have to pace myself and enjoy the buildup, which is probably almost just as good as when they actually, get together. But thank you for telling me that in advance so I know what to look forward to.
Okay.
Well, you're kind of screwed in Mr. Moneybags then, I have to tell you.
Yeah, Mr. Moneybags is our slowest burn to this day.
I don't even want to tell you what chapter that happens in.
Oh my God, he's the slowest burn. That sounds painful.
It is.
Oh, well, I will be sending you both a message and saying, really, you made me wait till the last chapter of the book? No. Why would you do that to me with that man on the cover looking like that? That's just wrong.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Dear Bridget. You both said that this is one of your favorite heroes, or your favorite hero that you guys wrote together. And I hear he has an accent. So he's Australian. Is that right?
He's
British.
English.
British.
Yes, he is from Britain.
And his name is Simon.
Yes, and he it's going to be interesting because it's hard to describe exactly how much the handsome blonde man on the cover reminds us of Simon, but when people read the book, they'll realize that he is the perfect Simon. Simon is this charismatic British doctor, and he essentially moves into the garage of an American widow, and it's he's only temporarily passing through town, and it's sort of all about the opposites attract that happens between the two of them. And it's not really, we didn't market it as a cocky bastard book, because it just, when we started writing it, it was clear that it just took on a life of its own. He seemed like his own, just in his own category almost. I can't explain it. Not that those guys are any similar to each other. They're really not. Those stories are all very different too. But we just kind of saw this book in a different light from the beginning. And we just really enjoyed writing him. We just both felt very connected to him.
You know what? I don't know what actually drew me to him. He just has unlike a lot of our other characters, which are a bit more brooding, I think, this hero is very honest with himself, and it's almost comical to watch this one. He puts himself out there, and it's comical to watch him try to deny things that are happening to him. But he doesn't feel like the other cocky bastards, just like what Penelope said. He feels different to us. And honestly, I don't know why, but I just connected with him right away. And he's just special to me. He's very special.
Yeah. So when you guys came up with this particular book, or any of the books that you guys write together, do you kind of plot out the story first, or do you just do you have a storyboard, or what's that process like for you? And then with this one, because it's a little bit different than, it's not under the cocky bastards, are you going to possibly write some more that will maybe be a different type of collaborative series after Dear Bridget?
Our process is kind of non-existent. I hate to say that, but we basically, we don't outline it all. We chat for a while before we start a new book, when we know where the couple is starting out at, we know where they're ending, and we know the twist sort of, but we really don't know any details. If I use cocky bastard, we knew what his secret was and what was going to happen to him midway through, and that's about it. That's all we kind of knew. And we knew he was Australian. We knew what her issue was, what their professions were, and then we just started. And it literally becomes a trip of our own, in that we write a few thousand words and pass it back to each other. And so it's kind of an amazing experience, because you're part reader and part writer, which is really kind of cool, because sometimes I get to that last page after I'm reading her section, and I'm pissed because I want to keep swiping, and there's nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, I basically I use her parts to our stories as my rewards for finishing my word count for my own book, because we're always writing 2 books at once. So I'll write, my own book, say 3 or 4 days out of the week, and then I'll wait until I'm done with that so I can close out of that world. And then I use, the ability to read her part as my reward. And then that's where I take up and finish and do my part to our book. So I won't allow myself to even think about one story if I'm in another, but I oftentimes, and then I get to that point and I'm like, swipe, like, oh, okay. I have to figure out what happens.
I mean, you guys are really busy with your writing. I wonder, Penelope, you mentioned that, you guys are writing your own books, and then you're writing your books together, because I see pretty much every month you guys have something. I mean, I don't know if it's every month, but it seems like it. Every month something is coming out from one of you guys. How do you, kind of work in your timeline, and, what's the time of day that you find more beneficial that, you are able to write? Are you a morning person? Are you up at the crack of dawn, or are you a late owl and you don't sleep and you just kind of write until the sun is coming up?
Vi, you want to answer that first?
Yeah, sure. I'm a morning person. I can't keep my eyes open after like 10 o'clock anymore, but I get up usually by 5 o'clock, maybe sometimes even earlier. And I just get everything done during the day. If I don't start actually writing, I do a lot of administrative, and P and I catch up in the morning. And I don't do anything till after my kids leave for school. Luckily, today was back to school day.
Yeah.
I don't do any writing. I do administrative stuff while they're all, grumpy and yelling at me in the morning. And then once they're gone, I might start to write. But if I don't start to write before, say, 1 or 2 in the afternoon, I'm useless. I have to write in the morning. I'm a morning person.
Yeah, I have to write when my kids are out of the house. So there definitely is only a small window for me to get what I need to get done in the morning and then get some writing in before my kids come home. So I'm also a morning writer. And, we each release two solo books a year and then 2 co-written books a year. So it's a total of 4 books. So it may seem like we're,
Are
yeah,
you sure? It seems
yeah,
like
that's
way
all.
more,
Well,
than that.
I think the reason that it does seem like that is because it's all at once. So, we write, like right now we're at the point we're about to go quiet. We will be writing from now until the end of the year, and there's no more releases after Dear Bridget. So, and then, 5 months later, 6 months later, oftentimes the books will come, her book, my book, our book. So it seems like it's every month, but it's really, there's a big gap in between where we're writing, where that's where the books are getting created. So yeah, it's four books total a year, right? Am I right?
Yep, it's 4. We each do
I
2.
don't believe either of you.
Oh, and we
Right.
yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we each do 2 solos, and there's the 2 co-written.
Okay, so 6 books, but it just seems like more than that, and it could just, I don't know, it seems like more than that. I think you should go back and check and see if it's just 6.
Trust me, it's not. We can't possibly produce. I mean, up until April and Penelope a month before me, we were both working full time in addition to doing all this, so we couldn't possibly have done it anymore.
Yeah, we almost lost our minds. We caught it before it became a problem.
Well, I'm glad. I hear that a lot of authors sometimes go through a burnout period where they are just really overwhelmed with, either trying to meet a personal deadline or deadlines with publishers, and handling all of, some of the administrative functions, and just and work-life balance, at home, and they just kind of, hit that wall. Have you guys ever experienced, I mean, you said before you guys, started writing full time, did you have that experience where you just felt like you needed to take a longer break and not write? Or if you didn't go through that, what are some things that you did to prevent yourself from getting to that point?
Well, I've actually been on a break since June. So I basically took this summer off to freak out / prepare for these 2 releases. So I haven't really been writing consistently until about June. So for me, that would be considered what a break would be. The most I really should ever go without writing is really 2 to 3 months. Otherwise, you start to feel very rusty. And so you start to get anxiety, and that kind of replaces the relaxation you might have felt, during the earlier part of your break.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I actually, you say a break, but it's a break from writing. It's never a break from the administrative stuff. I feel like it's a never ending. Neither one of us have an assistant, and it's a never ending list that goes on of everything you need to do. So even though she may not have been writing in June or July, we were editing a book, or making files and doing graphics and teasers and planning the promotion that we're going to do around it, and working on our mailing list and promoting books as well. So our break period means that we're promoting something instead of an active writing mode. It's not really a break.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there's the day-to-day stuff like the shipping and answering the inquiries that come in. I really honestly feel like it's more than a full-time job, where, I mean, I could have a staff of people and still have stuff to give them, but I don't. I just have me, myself, and I. So it's a lot of work, definitely a lot of work. We essentially are publishing houses of our, we basically it's just us, we're doing everything that a publishing house would do from our homes.
That's a lot. That's a lot of work.
It is. The administrative is very tedious, and it gets really overwhelming, all of the tedious stuff, deciding who to going through ARC lists, and all of that stuff is very tedious and stressful, because you don't want to hurt people's feelings and tell people no to things. And so you try to be fair, and you wind up really agonizing over something that should take a couple of minutes. But when we're in this world with people, it's difficult.
Sometimes we spend an entire day agonizing over one issue that could probably be solved in 5 minutes.
I totally understand that. But so if you took a break, or you took a break from writing, so during the times when you guys need to kind of relax, and I know Vi, you said there's always some administrative something, but what do you do for fun? Like, when you're like, I just want to go and jet ski, or I want to bungee jump, or I like fishing, or what have you. What are some of those relaxing things that you like to do outside of work?
I just love to veg in front of the television. It's honestly like I feel like my brain is fried half the time from just either worrying about some business aspect of of my life, or thinking about what I'm going to write next. I just love to just veg in front of the television, or just hang out with my kids. I don't really have too many hobbies aside from the writing. I wish I did, but I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm the opposite in that I don't ever turn on the television. I don't like the television at all. And I like to travel. And the funny thing is, Penelope does not fly. So we're very opposite on those things. I spend all of my free time pretty much traveling. When I do take time off, I spent 3 weeks in Europe this summer. I went down to South Carolina this year. I'm going to France in 3 weeks. I travel a lot. That's my passion, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then I have three children that played over the last 4 years. They played 9 sports. So wow. I pretty much have my ass on a bench for most of the
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, that's a lot. And Penelope doesn't fly. I remember you saying that on one of your videos, and I was like, how can this be? And that's when I was like, I'm never gonna meet her because she's not coming over here. And that's when I was in Arizona, so I knew that I could just hang that up. You driving something.
I know.
Yeah.
Someday I do plan to drive a little further. Someday. Once we had driven down to Florida for a signing, but my life is very limited because I have a special needs child, and she really I can't leave her with anybody or anything. So that's part of why I'm limited. But the other part is that I don't fly. But yeah, I try to drive when I can to events, and we're going to DC and this year and New York, and I've been to Philly. But yeah, those like West Coast is very difficult when you don't fly, or of course Europe.
Yeah, darn. So she won't be going with you, Vi, on any trips to Europe?
I have no idea how much stress that brings me, because I know this sounds ridiculous, but I'm doing my first signing ever in New York in October. And I'm not stressing about it at all because I know she's going to be sitting right next to me. Whereas I'm going to France without her first, and I'm totally stressing about it. She's like my whoopee.
Oh yeah, and I wish that I could get over my stupid fear, but and then I'm sitting here like practically in tears because I have to miss this trip because I just won't get my butt on a plane, but I'm going to miss this whole experience, because I would love to go through the whole thing. I just don't know how to get there.
Are you a drinker?
I know. I do drink, but it's what it is. It's for me, it's the anticipatory anxiety. So it's like the weeks and months ahead of time, I would be so stressed out that I know everyone's like, just take a Xanax or just have a drink and just, knock yourself out on the plane. But for me, it's just not that simple. And it's awful. I admit to it. I'm very open about it. I tell everybody about it because I don't want them to think I'm like, if I'm saying no to a signing, like every single year for the past 4 years, I don't want them to think that like, I'm just like choosing to, deny that or anything. I just want them to know the truth, Yeah.
Well, fears are real,
Yeah.
It's not something that people can just toss to the back of their head and say, I'm scared of heights. I don't like bridges. But shucks, I'm near Chicago. I don't have a choice but to drive over that bridge if I need to get where I'm trying to go. That's a little bit different than, flying. My dad doesn't fly. He's just doesn't. And so he will get on a bus, lo and behold, there's still a Greyhound, and he'll do it. But Vi will be sure she takes lots of pictures and does, a live video or something like that. And Vi, if you just need somebody to travel with you, I'm just, volunteering. I have a passport and I can get on the plane. I will require a little bit of alcohol. But or or you need a Penelope doll. You need a
I do
Exactly.
need a Penelope doll. That's totally what I need.
yes.
We actually tried to find one, but I tried to find one for her, but I couldn't find one that looked like me.
I think I should get a Penelope doll for Europe without a doubt.
I do. I think so.
Yeah, we need to look into making that happen, and and getting her a little T-shirt saying, "I wish I could be there, but this will do," or something like that. And
Yeah.
I think that would be so cool.
I'm definitely going to get her a T-shirt that says I went to Canes, and my best friend went to Canes, and all I got was this crappy T-shirt. She's
Oh, that's gonna make me cry.
Oh, but I'm excited. I'm excited that that you are attending your first book signing at the Big Apple Author event, which is taking place the second weekend in October, and it is sponsored by Southern Belle's book blog and also author L. Christensen, which I will be there, so I will get to meet both of you in person and take a picture and put it as my profile picture. Do you know I'm like almost more excited about that than actually buying all of the books, which is weird. Nobody should say that, right?
Yeah, no, that's
love
our
that.
first signing together. It's going to be epic.
Yeah. So, Vi, what's the few things that you're most looking forward to about your first book signing experience?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure honestly, I'm not sure I'm looking forward to much of it. Whereas Penelope is a very outgoing, and she lights up when people come near her. I'm kind of the opposite, and I go a little stiff when people come near
me. We're going to have to warm you up.
Just remember, everyone, Vi is a hugger. She wants to be. Yeah.
You're going to do just fine. It's interesting when people go to book signings. We really kind of see that a lot of people are introverts, and but since Penelope said you like hugs, Wink, I'm gonna make sure that I give you a giant bear hug. I might even kiss you on the cheek and take a selfie. And yeah. Don't shove me or push me or anything like that. Just suffer through the picture and the selfie and the kiss on the cheek and act like it's the best thing ever. And I think we'll be okay with that.
I'm actually looking forward to meeting a lot of the people that I've been talking to for years, and I've never really got to see them live. So between authors and bloggers and just readers, there's a lot of people that I'm looking forward to meeting.
Yeah, and I'm excited that I can get there. Penelope only has to drive to get there. And
That's right.
And I'm glad that I'm in the Midwest, so it's easier for me to get to the East Coast versus being on the West Coast and flying over to New York, which is expensive. So
yeah,
Are you driving?
No,
Flying.
I'm flying into New Jersey. And then I'm just gonna take the shuttle car over, whatever I did last time I was there. And the good part about traveling out of Chicago is those round trip air tickets to Newark is less than $200. It's the best thing ever.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is it United?
No, Southwest.
Southwest. Wow.
Yes. I always fly Southwest because I have a suitcase just for books. And so it travels free.
There you go. Perfect.
But I'm excited to meet both of you guys. I won't keep you
too
much longer. I do want to talk about two things before we go. I just finished a backlist book by Vi Keeland, and it was Beautiful Mistake. And I really enjoyed the book. Of course, now I will tell you, when I say I just finished the book, I mean I listened to it on audio, right?
Yeah.
I just want you to be aware when I say, oh, I finished this book. Yeah, I finished it. Sabio and Andy Arndt did that book. And I kind of I sort of expected something, but I didn't expect it. It was one of those, the light bulb went off and I was like, WTF? What just happened in this book? And but I like the buildup of the story. I love how it kind of worked its way. I can't say it without giving it away, so I don't want to mention too much, but I love to know how you come up with these kind of the concepts for your book, because when I look at books, sometimes a lot of books, they're almost pretty much the same, if without saying they're the same. You know what I mean? Like they all pretty much have this kind of same idea to it, but yours, you and Penelope both just add something different that I don't see in other books, which is good for you because that means that we want to buy them. But Beautiful Mistake, I want to know what was the concept or how you came up with the idea of that book.
Well, thank you, first of all. I kind of got stuck on the confessional part of the book.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually part of another book that I had in my head, started going over and coming up with, and I had started to write some of another book, and it was going to use this confessional in a different way with the same kind of, I'm not going to say it either, but the moment when it all comes together, that moment was going to be used differently. And I didn't love the book that I had started in, but I could not get rid of the confessional piece. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm Catholic. I'm not terribly religious, although I do send my kids to Catholic school. So I was raised Catholic, and religion is a part of my life, even if I'm not a good practicing Catholic. So when I was little, I went to a school in Queens, and I used to sit in the balcony at our old church and watch the people on Saturday mornings go into confession. Mm-hmm. And I guess it just stuck with me over the years. And that scene, my books generally start from a scene. They don't start from a character. It starts from one single scene. That scene I just couldn't let go of until I found the book that I wanted it in.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And it was so, gosh, I really, again, I can't say too much because I don't want to give away the story. But that moment, I'll just mention with the pennies, and I was like, oh my, yeah. So I'll just leave that there. And I was like, oh my God. But so I do have a question for you. Somebody actually wrote a question, and her name is Maria Baker, and she's from Somerset, New Jersey, and she wanted to know if Rachel's sister is going to have a story.
Yeah, a lot of people had asked me if I was going to write Rachel's story, but I'm not planning on it because in order to properly develop a character, I'd have to give a lot of her backstory to make her who she is. And her backstory is really heavier than I generally want to write the main character about, what happened when she was little, what she went through. And then it wasn't just something that happened to her. It's how she dealt with it through her teen years and even as an adult. So it's a little bit heavier than I normally would write. It would be difficult for me to kind of keep my normal feel and write her story.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you a question after we finish this episode because I have a question about that and I need to know an answer, but I don't want to ruin it for anybody, so I'm not going to ask it on here. But I noticed that Penelope, you also have some Christian-like themes in your books as well. And, I've totally, I won't say not harassing you, but, I stalk you pretty hard. And we talk about Sins of Seven all the time. And I know it's an older book. And I remember you telling me that, it wasn't the most popular and people thought it was, kind of, I don't know, cultish or whatever. I don't know. But it's just something I just have to know. Kind of what was your inspiration with that book? And again, I love that book. It's like it made the top 5.
My favorite too. I love that book. It's one of my all-time books.
Thank you.
Too. It's like in the top. It's the top 5 of my all-time favorite books. I think it was number 3. And so I just need to know. What was it about that story?
So, I mean, really the reason for the incorporation of the religion was less about incorporating religion as some sort of, educational thing, or it was more because I needed something to be the reason that 7 and L would have been paired together in the first place. Mm-hmm. So the religion just kind of happened to be almost like something that I felt was necessary to create the situation for them so that he could meet Elle and then so that he could then meet Evangeline. Mm-hmm. So I think what people probably had a problem with or were scared off from with this is that they may have assumed it was more of a cultish book, that it maybe perhaps that religion, while it was a part of the story, and I felt it was necessary to the story, I think a lot of people, because you don't know the story until you read the story. So I think either from hearing about the mention of religion or hearing about the mention of a love triangle, which this wasn't really a typical triangle, I think those two elements might have scared some people off. I'm proud of that book. It's a lot different than anything else I've ever written, probably a lot different from anything else I will write. I think some people, though, in general, some readers might be scared off by certain topics, certain implications in reviews that a story might be very angsty or that may not leave them feeling happy. I don't know, but I definitely think it was, I'm still proud of that book. And I think that the religion was a necessary sort of subplot to get them where they needed to be in the plot, if that makes sense.
Back when I was reading books, before audiobooks, I don't even know how I stumbled upon that book. I really just don't know how. I don't know. It was a divine intervention.
I'm glad you did because it's not the book that comes up first when people are searching my name. So I'm glad you did find it.
Oh my gosh. And I can't even get words out because there was so much depth in that book that I have never read anything like it. And when I read it, I didn't immediately think cult. I just thought it as, okay, this is this person's belief. Nobody's making them do anything. And if people know cults, once you're in, you can't get out. It's kind of like
right.
A
and
gang.
what's interesting is that Seven was really sort of anti-religious in a sense.
He was.
The religion he had been brought up in a very religious home. But the
first scene, anti-religious, think of the first scene of the book, lady.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
I was just thinking about that.
Like, if people read the sample, they're not going to think that this book is
exactly.
But apparently not many people did. But it would. I'm still proud of that book, and
So people, if you are listening and you have not read Sins of Seven, I recommend that you pick up that book or get the audiobook because the audiobook was great. And also, if you haven't read Beautiful Mistake yet, or if you haven't listened to it, I recommend that book too. I love the themes of both of those books. It's something about when I can see a hint of faith, and I won't even say religion, a hint of a faith in a book. Doesn't matter if you are, Vi mentioned maybe not a good practicing Catholic, but you have a foundation, and those foundations come across in your books. It's same for Penelope. Whatever foundation it comes across in all your books, and that's why in my review I said I can always see and feel God in there. Somewhere in there, I can feel it and see it, and that's what I love about those books and about both of you guys' writing styles. I absolutely love it. It's probably why you guys have so many fans, because you're so good with those emotions and writing them and having readers feel them. So that's my soapbox speech for today.
Thank you.
And I love them, and I hope that you guys will continue to keep writing and bringing more stories. Maybe next year you will have more than 6 books coming out, because again, in my head, it seems like more than 6 combined together, but maybe not. Vi has to keep traveling, so we want to make sure she can still travel. Take a break from writing a little bit. So, but thank you both so much for being on the show. Before we go, I have something a little special for you. I had a chat with somebody who's working on something for you, and they just wanted to say something, so take a listen.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Audio Flow listeners, this is Andy Arndt. Hey, Vi. Hey, Penelope. I'm really excited to be working on Dear Bridget, getting ready for that September release. Have a great day. Bye.
Oh, thank you. We love Andy.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and I know that she's worked on a couple of you guys' audiobooks, and actually, you guys have good narrators for all of your books. I've listened to pretty much all of them. But she is busy in the studio, and she just wanted to let you guys know she was thinking of you. So thank you so much, Andy, for giving us a little bit of your time and sending a shout out to two of our favorite people.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
doing that for us.
Thank you
You're
so much.
so what I would like to do is, oddly enough, I don't think there's anybody who's listening to this podcast who don't know who you are. So, but anyway, in case there are some people who have been living on another planet and don't know who you are, if you could tell them how they can find you guys on social media, or if you want to direct them to your website, please do so. So, Penelope, if you want to start sharing how people can find you.
Sure. My website is PenelopeWardAuthor.com. The best place to find me is on Facebook, either by searching Penelope's Peeps, which is my private Facebook group of private with about 9,000 members, 9,500 members. So Penelope's Peeps would be a great way to keep in touch with me, or they can just find my author page, Penelope Ward Author. But again, the website is PenelopeWardAuthor.com.
Awesome. And she's also on Twitter.
Yes, I am on Twitter, but definitely more on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram as well. But on Facebook, I'd say the majority of the time.
Yes, we love Facebook.
Yes.
All right, Vi, where can people find you?
Same place, mostly on Facebook. I have this small group as well, Vi's Violets, if you're on Facebook, or my website has links to get to all of my social media. So my website is just my name, Keeland.com. And it has links to my Twitter, my Instagram, all of my books, my Amazon page. Everything should be in one place. So it's right there.
All right. And also, Vi just made 10,000 violets in her group. So congratulations to that. And Penelope, I'm sure you'll be hitting that 10,000 mark, I would say.
Sometime this year.
it will be, I think it'll be fairly soon. So, you quote me on that. It's going to be fairly soon. And both of you guys will be at 10K plus by December. It might be even closer to 12,000. So
everybody listening, go ahead and join my group. Catch up to Vi.
and it's so fun in the groups. I love the interaction you guys have in there, and the giveaways, and the chats. I know Penelope does a couple videos, and Vi will be looking forward to you doing some videos too. So this ought to be exciting. It's going to be a good end to 2017, everybody. And be sure that you pick up Dear Bridget, I Want You, which releases on September 18th. And actually, it releases a day after this podcast will go live. So make sure that you get your copy. Is it on pre-order?
Which one? I'm sorry.
Dear Bridget.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it's sorry. It's on print pre-order, but not Kindle pre-order. So we do have pre-orders for it. Right now, iBooks is up and paperback is up. But then we will have in the next few days. Well, actually, by the time this airs, I don't know when this will air, but as of airtime right now, or press time, we will have all platforms pre-order except for Kindle ebook, which will be a live release.
Okay. This will actually air on September 17th. So it's the day before you guys, the day before the book goes live.
That is perfect.
Okay.
And hopefully it will be live when we're hoping we try to release on Sunday a little early if we can. And so that will work out nicely.
Perfect.
Yay. And last thing before we go, to anybody who is new to either of you, what's your one book recommendation that you've written that you would have somebody read?
Well, we've talked about Sins of Seven, so I'm going to pick a different book. Normally I would say Sins of Seven or Neighbor Dearest. Neighbor Dearest, while it's perceived as being connected to Stepbrother Dearest, it's very much its own story, and it's one of my personal favorites of the books that I've written.
Yes, and I just got mine in the mail yesterday.
Yay,
so
that's right.
All right, Vi?
For me, I guess my solo books would be Egomaniac. And in our co-writes, I would just say start at the beginning. Start with the first cocky bastard and work your way forward.
Yes. And Vi, I will tell you, you are the only one of my top authors that I do not have a book from. So just know when I get to New York, you will be signing a lot of books. So just letting you know that in advance. Well, again, thank you, ladies, so much for being here. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Bookin' Around Town. You can follow us on Facebook at Bookin' Around Town, or on Instagram at Bookin' Around Town, or Twitter at Bookin' Around TWN. Just know that this episode will be streamed on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and can be downloaded at iTunes and Google Play. And as always, we are available as well on YouTube. Until next time, everybody, have a great week. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
You're listening to Bookin' Around Town with Jacques on the Audio Flow.